Hello everybody. Today this video number 9. We are continuing to in chapter 2, how to apply my working paper, the end of housing problem now. And this video we are resume talking about housing fund. Housing fund is the best housing fund, the best serious housing fund in the world. You will see that because the rule as Islam say that the government have give everybody who need to live need housing, a land occupied with traffic, everything, water, electricity, transportation, everything, and this will be free as Islam, as the Prophet Muhammad did in the past. So there is no meaning for that the country sell the land for the people because they build in the country in home. Another thing, the government have to give the people the money to build the loan to build their homes, free loan, no interest, no issue at all. This is have to. But if you apply these things, you can find problem that many people wish to give. In this case, many people wish to attain this advantage, the money and the land. Then this is create a great problem in housing, as which happened in the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. There are the government is the kindest government in the world, which is their people. They give land, they give them free loans, so everybody wish to attain this, to get this. So the prices of the materials is overpriced, so there is a great problem. So you can find there in Saudi Arabia, many people from the citizens of Saudi Arabia are tenants. So this is give a bad result. So in this paper I have really give a free loan as this fund, but I am boosting task when the people is not use these houses because the meaning here is the rule is in my own paper the country or the policy is the government converted to empowerment rule. And the second thing that the housing is necessary. So here in this working paper, I am imposing tax and fine to be sure that the man really want money for building the house. So the tax is not to collection money or collect money from the people. The tax is for service or provocation, as Islam says. So I think it's if you see in the majority of countries in the world, there are a lot of vacant houses, so or housing unit. So the housing problem, there is no housing problem at all in the world, but there are crises. Crisis is government made because they follow a bad policy for housing. So my housing fund is first, as you will see. So we have to the rule here in my housing fund. I will give the people who want to build a home in the first area or first time a free loan. I give him money as he want, as with discipline to build his home, and this is a free loan, and he pay installment, monthly installment or yearly installment. So without interest, but in case this is for use by himself or another people. If there is so there is no tax at all if he used by himself or another people. This is the rule, and this statement are collected again from the people and give it another, and so on. to be sure that the man take the money to build his home, housing unit, really necessary thing. So I not impose money for collection money, as some countries do give money for every housing. This is not good. This is illegal from Muslim view. So we'll talk about the sources of this housing fund. You will see no country, no border in any country. Also, anyone can get the money to build his home or housing unit easily, without usury, without any interest. You will see the source of. Now I'm going to talk about the source of the housing fund. First one, non-occupancy tax of minimum electricity and water fine. Why this fine? This fine may be if I give somebody the money to build his home. Maybe he wrote a contract with anybody that to talk to me, to tell me that he used this housing unit, but the really really staying in the housing unit or use the housing unit is the use of electricity and water. So I make here a minimum. Why I say minimum? This is to remember this man, the man that he has to use the housing unit. So this is not this is fine cancelled when the man use electricity and water in the home. This proves that he is staying. So if anybody is staying in his room, he consume electricity and water. So he will not be any fine at all for the to the housing fund, because he proved that he used the fine. So the man he have to if he didn't use the housing unit, he has to pay fine according to this table like this slides. So even he used less than this amount, he have to complete this fine. As example, first one, assume that the housing unit or the department less than 50 square meter. Then the fine here in this case is £2 total. If the man consume electricity and water more than £2, he will not pay anything. But if he used less than this value, or he didn't use, as example, if he didn't use, so he has to pay £2 to the housing fund. If he used by £1, he has to complete. He will pay another pound also. And a second example, the area between 50 to 30, as example. This is example, or this is example for the schedule or for the table. He has to be £3. If he use more, if he consume more than three pound, we don't ask him for any money, But if he didn't use at all, he has to be £3, £3 for housing fund. If he consume electricity and water by £2 only, he has to complete this value. So he has to pay £1 also for the housing fund, and so on. If you see here, to be sure the housing fund can attain much money. As in Egypt, in the statistic in Egypt in the year of 26, the number of empty housing is only 7.8 million department. That if the average non-occupancy tax so the minimum of electricity and water fine is 4. That means the housing fund will gain 4 multiplied for this number. That means the income of the fund will be 31.2 million pound monthly from this item only. Second item is the insurance for rent, which will be kept in the housing fund and its return. How? The rent is not for make damage for the housing or something like this. Will make explanation why make this item more. But the meaning of rent contract is netted contract. That means the landlord give the man the benefit of housing, and the tenant give them the landlord give the benefit of housing to the tenant, and the tenant pay money for the landlord. That means the any damage or the tenant have to pay to refinish the department again. So the insurance value, this is zero value, is the percentage of the value of the rent housing unit on the basis that the value of rent per square meter, it will be 1 real estate pound. As you know, in my contract, the contract is linked by what is called real estate pound. But here in in this item, the suggestion is we have to calculate the rent value for any department, whatever, is 1 square meter. So this is when the government evaluate this value. So the suggested percentage to be 6 times of the rental value for only 1 month. I give you example. If there are contract between landlord and tenant, and the contract say in the first month it will be £100, so the tenant have to keep £600 in the housing fund, and this money will return to the landlord at the end of contract, or the tenant will leave the houses. So the housing fund will use this money to lend the money until lend the money to the people who want housing, and this is another source for the housing fund. Second step is as you know, 1/3 of the profit of the business centers will be held in the different neighborhood. As you know, in the last video or more, in the last video, I talked to you. I will convert the country into neighborhood. So neighborhood will be establishment a business center in each one. So the benefit of the profit of this neighborhood will be divided into three. One for the housing fund, one for the maintenance, 1/3 to the housing fund, 1/3 to repair and make maintenance of the neighborhood. We will make discussion about it later. 1/3 as a benefit to the resident of the neighborhood. This is for the new city. Also, I will establish this in the new city, but the center business in the old city will establish in the building, which will be given up by some people, as we will talk about it this one. So this money is 1/3 of the profit of the neighborhood would go to the housing fund. That's even if we estimate the average monthly profit for every business center average is £3,000, then the money which will enter the housing fund from this item from every neighborhood for total it will be 1,000 multiplied by number of neighborhood in the country itself. This is another. Number D, the value of rental housing will be rented by the city council in the new cities. In the new cities, sometimes the housing fund or the government will build the houses in some places in the new cities. So some to buy to the people, but the people will book this housing unit by pay 10% or 20% of the value of the price of the housing fund. In this case, some people wish not to live in this housing fund, so he looking for rent, but he's not the really owner. So in this item, I suggest the rental value will be enter the housing fund with a condition he must pay quarter of the price of the housing fund. That means the man who booked this housing department, he have to be paid to the bank or whatever who booked the housing fund to pay the quarter of the price of the housing fund. But there are another installment. So in this case, I told him, I give him allowance to bring a tenant to rent this housing unit, but the rental value for this department will enter the housing fund. What's the benefit for the man who books this or who pays the quarter of the price of the housing unit? In case the man will stop paying installment until the tenant leaves the housing unit. I'll give you an example. I booked in New City a flat, our housing fund by 100,000 pound. So I pay 10%, around 10,000 housing pound monthly. First payment. Then monthly I have to pay, like as example, 500 pound. In this case, I have to pay this monthly. But in case I wish not to live in this city and I keep booking this housing unit, I will bring a tenant to live in my in the housing department or housing unit. But rental value will enter the housing fund. But one of the benefits for me, I will not pay any installment until the tenant leaves the housing fund, the housing unit. Number E, the return of the third quarter of the price of the apartment in New City due to the wishes of owner to rent it. So here this part, as you example before in the last one, I told you that the money, if you anyone book housing unit, have to pay quarter of the price of the apartment in the New City to rent it in order to rent to anybody. So this in this case, if I am the man who books this housing unit, I added I added a quarter of the price. I added this money, so I help in solving housing unit by the quarter of the price of the apartment until I get it again. So in the rule of the housing unit fund is giving a free loan, but in some conditions the government building in some area by the housing fund. So the who booked the housing unit may wish to stop paying installment, then he must pay quarter of the price of the housing unit. Assume there are 100,000 cases, 100,000 one booked housing unit. So the average rental value in this case, if the department will rent, rental value would 200 pound. So the housing fund income in this case, this value about 20 million pound monthly. Number F, the value of rental buildings that will be given up by their owners after compensating them. As you know, as explained before, we have to redistribute the people. We have to redistribute the people in the country and redesign the country, because all the people from the past go to around the water bank and something like that, and there are low traffic crowded traffic in the world, so have to redistribute the people. So in my working paper, I give a chance. This is allowance or choice to anyone in all the cities. He can give up his house or his building, and I will give him 3 items: free land and the money to build his home with a free loan, as well as give him the rental value for his house for 10 years. In this case, after these 10 years, the housing will be belong to the housing fund. So when the housing fund rent this building, he will gain the money. So if you see, there are a choice to any owner to give up his building and take some advantage instead of his building, as explained. After 10 years, the rental value will enter directly to the housing fund. Assume the average rental value from this building £200 monthly. So the fund income in this case 200 multiplied by number of buildings in the country. You see, this is much money also. Number G, tax on unused department. This is tax because the rule is everybody. The housing is necessity only. So the man he has to use his department. So if I assume one man in one building, I'm not talking for a man here. I'm not talking for a man who use one department, but I'm talking a man has a building. He make building 5 flats or more than 1 flat. So in this case, if assume a man has a building about 10 departments, so I told him that he has only one free of tax, one department, and I will explain this is more indication about this. I told him one department free of tax, and the other department of the building have to pay tax. Why? I push him to use it, but there is no tax if the man who the owner of the building itself, he rent all the rent or sell the department, or he used him by himself as he designed the building. This tax is equals 10% of the area of the value of the apartment multiplied by the value of real estate value. As here, it's only one real estate value. So for a building, this tax is taken after 6 months of the construction permit. If I give him a permit to build his home, I give him also 6 months for that. For a construction company which build some building, is taking 3 years without tax, but because I give him allowance to a period to buy or use his building. But I will apply directly if the company sell one department. If you sell one department, I use this tax. So another H, tax on unused land. This tax is multiplied 6 by the area of the land multiplied of 1 real estate pound value. Okay. This is tax on the land, unused land. This is a great problem in Saudi Arabia, which is called white land. There is, but here I give him in the first period, in the first application of my working paper, I give him 5 years without tax in all the city. Why? I give him a chance to build his home by his own money, or with cooperation with a tenant or any company. This is sources for the housing fund. Also, suggestion here is the unused fact. Here as a rule in the Islamic economy, that the money does not borrow money. Here you can see in many places one man buy a shop by 1,000 pounds. After a period, if you want to buy, if you want to sell this shop, it will be 20,000 or 30,000. That means the question is what he did to gain more. So the money the money does not born money, but the money can get by effort. So I suggest here the government will build wholesale shops and the big, small, and similar in the central Spain or downtown by money from housing fund, and then give it to the people and the company. If you want to buy, not buy or rent, buy a cushion to use for cut. Okay. But by a cushion, and the value will be constant will constant link, but was linked by real estate by rental real estate pound, not by local currency. The return from this usufruct will enter the house fund. The fund income number of shops for average of usufruct. Okay, type. Here another, give him a source of money for housing fund. That the housing fund can give free loan to any people who want buy. But here there are two items can help also without need for housing fund, but will be guaranteed for this. First of all, housing fund will be guaranteed of any contract between individual and the construction company. Maybe in the first, the housing fund cannot give anyone. All people want houses, want to build houses, the money for build his home. So I give anybody want to finish his home or build his construction, make contract with any company, construction company, and the housing fund will be guaranteed for the installment in the to the company. Why? Because the building it will be in the land of the government. This is all. And this second will be if the man want to buy or sell something, you have to be give registration data or certificate data. That this will be selected for housing fund. So he can make a control easily for the rent or sale for any building in the country. Second thing, housing fund will be guaranteed of any contract between landlord and tenants in the cases of the tenants share the operation to complete the construction or finishing of the building. As you see in all the city, there are a lot of department is not finished or need completely or complete. Building built some floor and we want to complete. So I give him a chance to any tenant to pay money, and it will be deducted from the rental value monthly as he may contract with the landlord, but he will deduct it from the rental value. But here the housing fund will be the guarantee of any contract between landlord and the tenant. As you see here, the total housing fund here, it will be too much money, and the income of the fund like this. If you see about 6 or 7 source for the money for housing fund. If you see there is no burden on the government. If you see that the man who really need money, need housing, he will not be over prices or any burden. He will take if I take as a man who need housing, if I take for housing fund 100,000 pounds, I will return it 100,000 pounds. That means no usual, no interest. So it's the best for the government. It's the best for the people itself. He really want housing unit. Easy. It will facilitate attain the housing unit. It's the best housing fund if it applied by the government. So I told you that housing crisis, there is no housing problem at all in the world, but there are housing crisis, and the responsible for it is the government, which is the crisis is the government myth. We will resume another thing in the next video, inshallah. Thank you.